Hi YouTube, it's Kathy and welcome to the final day of VEDA. Yay, we made it! Well, I made it, and by it I mean 31 videos this month. And despite not knowing about my Wi-Fi situation for a couple of those weekends, I didn't put anything out late, so I'm thrilled with that. If you have a favorite video from this month-long adventure, let me know down in the comments below because that gives me an idea of what you guys like seeing me do, and then we'll probably result in more videos. Throughout the month I asked you guys if you had any questions you wanted me to answer, and I got a few submissions, so I'm gonna go through those now. Rainbow Star Child asked, would you mind terribly if I stole your idea and started doing weekly entertainment wrap-ups too? Not at all. Fill your boots. I love it when people see something that they like and go, hey, I want to do that too. In fact, if anyone ever starts doing anything because I did it first or they saw me do it first, I always want to know about it, and I want you to link it down in the comments so I can check it out. And of course, if you don't mind mentioning me in the video or in the description, that would be nice, but it's definitely not essential. Just do the things you like to do. Rogan suggested that I maybe talk about what people do at libraries that bothers me or I like or appreciate when it happens. And I don't want to get too ranty on this subject because, you know, people from work might see this video. But often it feels like about 40% of my job is pushing in people's chairs because they can't seem to do it themselves, and like, come on guys, seriously? Something I really like, however, is when I'm shelving books or doing whatever I'm meant to be doing at that point and somebody wonders out loud to themselves, I wonder where blah is, and I can point it out. Especially if this happens in nonfiction and I happen to know the Dewey Decimal Number, or at least sort of where it would be, I'm delighted. Obviously, being a shy, quiet, introverted person who likes to have quiet spaces when they're reading, I'm not a big fan of when people just run around the library screaming, which happens way more often than I would have thought. I understand libraries are a community living room, and that concept is great. However, my living room doesn't have people running around screaming in it. So if we could go back to teaching kids the first thing about the library is you be quiet, that would be cool. This one is fun mostly because I've never figured out how to say this person's screen name or what their actual first name is, but either Xing Cat or Crossing Cat asks, what are some things that make you a typical Canadian? I don't really have a good answer for this. I don't think there is a typical Canadian. We're the second biggest country in the world. There's a lot of us and there's a lot of distance between us, so we kind of just make up our own things in our own little pockets. I mean, there's the typical jokes about us all living in igloos and riding polar bears to school, and a comic I used to read online had a great line about it's a small known fact that every Canadian has a small serrated edge somewhere on their body to fight off polar bears and enrage Quebecois. That's hilarious to me. But I don't know if I can point to anything typically Canadian. I can point to the fact that here in BC, at least in Victoria, we say thank you when we get off the bus, and that's not something I've really seen elsewhere. But that's here. Even going to Toronto, you will not see that type of politeness. At least not in talking to a bus driver. Unless that person happens to be from BC. I mean, at this point it might be typical Canadian that I look at American pennies and go, oh yeah, we used to have those. Trolling my American friends about pennies is definitely a Canadian thing. At this point I think it's just easier to point out differences when I travel to the States and go, huh, that's a weird thing that I don't do at home. Like having to cycle through the radio to find something that's not Christian rock. We just gave up. But again, I'm one of many Canadians, so if any Canadians are watching this and you have a typical Canadian thing that you'd like to share, comments below. Rogan also asks, are we the same person? And although we all came from the same place and we're all Stardust, we are in fact different people. I kind of actually hope this starts a conspiracy theory where we are in fact the same person. That would make me very happy. And I don't want to say I'm glad that you have the same affliction where you don't eat properly and I don't eat properly, but it is kind of nice to know when you're in the same boat as somebody else. On that subject, next month I'm actually hoping to work very carefully on actually learning how to eat like a proper human who has multiple meals a day. That's not how I roll currently. And I'm sure there will be a series of videos on that as well, so stay tuned on my channel if that interests you. Typewriter Bell asks, how did you get so awesome? And Lex, you're just so cute. Thanks for the best question ever. Why is it always garbage day when I'm filming? That's not a good sound. But for a semi-real answer on that, besides thank you, I think you're awesome too. I think a lot of it comes from reading and wanting to understand the world in a more broad way and just being open to new experiences and curious about the world in general. And also an emphasis on kindness. I'm not always the most kind person in the world. I definitely have my moments where I am kind of insufferable. Anyone who's traveled with me for an extended period of time when I'm hungry and or very sleep deprived can tell you this. But when the circumstances allow for it, I try to imagine other colors complexly, and I think that builds on the being awesome. Sarah asks, what are your thoughts on socks? And I think that regular length socks are not made for me because they bruise my legs. So I wear ankle length socks unless it's really, really cold outside, in which case I wear knee-high socks under my jeans that only come to my knee because we don't have real winter on Vancouver Island, and I like it that way. Sarah also asked, do you remember your dreams from last night? No, I generally don't remember my dreams, although I definitely had a dream a couple of nights ago that I forgot and then remembered while I was walking to work the other day and thought it was a memory for about 5 seconds until I realized, no, that didn't actually happen. But in this dream, I definitely flipped off and swore at somebody who was blocking my way on the sidewalk and wanted me to stop me to make me give them money, or possibly just street harass me. It's a little bit hazy. And I had the whole headphones in, avoiding eye contact, definitely don't want to talk to you, but they definitely tried to block the sidewalk, so I gave them a big F off and double birded it, and it felt really good when I thought it was a real memory. And the final question, also from Sarah, is what is on your to-be-consumed list, so TV, movies, podcasts, that type of thing. I just started listening to a new podcast that just came out called Real Bad, made by a few friends of mine down in Missoula, and it is really funny, and I'm looking forward to future episodes. I'm also really looking forward to the remake of It, the 1990 version, was my favorite movie when I was 4 years old, and I'm really excited because the remake looks actual scary instead of like campy 80s horror scary that we had from the 1990 version. And it looks like they didn't completely mess with the script and make it about a different character, so that's nice. I'm trying to stay fairly spoiler-free about the production of it, but I think that it might actually be being made into 2 movies, which makes sense, because you kill somebody with that tome. It's like 1,134 pages. I read it once. It took some time. And also, my god, some weird things happened in the book that didn't make it into the movies, thank god. Other than that, I'm waiting for It Devours, which is the second Night Vale novel. I'm also waiting for Turtles All the Way Down, and very soon I should have a proof copy of The Beginning of the World in the Middle of the Night, which is Jen Campbell's short story collection. Very excited for that to get to me. I also pre-ordered it, but I'm getting a proof as well, so yay. I also have literal shelves of books that I own, have not read yet, so those things are on my to-be-consumed list, but there's no real urgency with them. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop getting books from the library. Weird. I know. Just go with me here. I have 3 in my possession. Once those 3 are consumed, I'm going to not get things from the library unless they're things that are being specially released and I need to read them right now. And I'm going to start working through the things on my shelves. Especially because I hauled some books the other day and a friend of mine is like, you need to read this right now so we can talk about it now, please, thanks. So that needs to happen. Also, I'm just about to finish the series of Unfortunate Events in audiobooks, so I have a couple of audiobooks. Ding, ding. And I need to get to those before the library wants them back. And that about does it. Thank you for watching this Q&A, and thank you for watching my face on screen most of this month, or however much of it you saw. There's a playlist link below of all of the videos from this month if you just want to have it playing in the background while you do other things. I don't know how your life goes, that could be a thing you do. I will be back next month continuing my weekly wrap-ups because those are weekly, and then I will hopefully also have some food-related content coming your way. I just really need to clean my kitchen first. Thank you everyone who sent in questions. Thank you everyone who was commenting on my videos all month. That made this a really wonderful experience, and I will see you next week. Bye.